Maybe some hope. Maybe there is a way out of this. We just need to all stand together. We're a loud voice that way. This next talk's also super exciting. I don't know, like, where else in the world we find people that would know more than these three individuals when it comes to genetics, trichomes, extraction. So, not that they need any introduction. We have Kevin Jodrey. We have Marcus Richardson, which is known as Welbourne, and Jameson. You guys want to come on up and take a seat and spread your knowledge. Thanks a lot.
I think it's just like a step up.
Awesome. Thanks, Che. We've got a hard hour to talk about cannabis genetics, and we've got two guys who know a tremendous amount about cannabis genetics up here. So I'm going to lead more of a Q&A than jump in on the discussion. Maybe I'll add some things here or there. But my name is Jameson Welbourne. I run the Banyan Tree. It's an agency representing. Traditional market participants looking to transition into the legal space. And I'll let Kev, who doesn't really need an introduction, or Marcus, who doesn't really need an introduction, give them a quick introduction on who they are for the folks listening online.
Thank you for being here. Kevin Jodrey, career cultivator.
Hey, thanks for being here as well. Marcus Richardson, aka Bubbleman, hashish aficionado.
So with cannabis genetics today, it's definitely a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it, and it's headed in a lot of different directions. I know in the Canadian space, maybe 3 years ago, we were the legal companies, so I was trying to figure out if I was holding it too close. Legal companies were not really focused on building up war chests of genetics. Only a very few were focused on that, and now we're seeing a bit more understanding from white collar C-suite individuals on how important having unique varietals and genetics into the system is. So my question to Kev first and then to Marcus is, are you happy with the direction that you see genetics going currently? Like there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of different opinions about what's happening. We're seeing a lot of narrow leaf equatorials move in, a lot of guys working with Cuban blacks and PIFs and things like that. Like, what are your thoughts on what you're currently seeing, Kev?
If I was to talk about those directions, I say there's two different directions. There's people who are going into worlds of cannabis that are based on quality, and then people who are going into cannabis genomically in terms of how they see it affecting their return. And in that regard, to see these new wave of cultivators coming out, I mean, so many young breeders that are just putting their own work together, I'm stoked, because it lets me know that the culture's continuing wonderfully. But when I look at the larger operations, there's almost like a sorrow, because they were so fucking aggressive for so long to everybody that now they have to come and actually work with people because they don't understand how to position the timing and delivery of a product. So by the time when they make their decisions, they're already old and wrong, and when they make acquisitions, they're already off. So whatever was the plan is no longer the plan. And so what it does is it forces them to work with smaller legacy groups that are more nimble and more perceptive. But the thing is that everyone was so aggressive prior, it created a situation where there's no trust. And so what you have is this stagnation of development in the legal market with a proliferation of development in the traditional.
Yeah, really well said. Really well said. I kind of call it, from the days of Prohibition and being involved from the beginning for me, which is the late 80s, I saw the mentality of the people who were growing, most of them, not all, to be very similar to these large, aggressive growers, in the sense that they were, now we call it, what's the basis of the bottom line? They're more interested in their returns. I called it the how much can I get and how fast can I get it mentality, which which really cut us off from an incredible amount of profiles that only express themselves at 16 weeks or 18 weeks, and they require different things than just a basement grow and a light and some nutrients. And so, you know, I was always kind of bummed about that. I always wondered, like, what have we cut ourselves off from by taking this thin slice of the pie, the how much can I get and how fast can I get it? But then also at a very young age, I was turned on to pure hazes, and I got to meet Neville at a very young age, and one of my mentors, Ron Hickey, turned me on to a pure haze that, you know, we thought of it as a pure haze. It was about 16 to 18 weeks. It was a fairly long flowering plant. Most people thought we were absolutely insane because growing cannabis at this time in the center of Canada in the Bible Belt. Well, Ron, my mentor, served 11 years in a federal penitentiary with the most dangerous people in the country for being a habitual florist. So it was amazing to meet people like him who were willing to focus on these really unique profiles. I love all cannabis, I will say that. I'm also excited about what all the young people are doing. I saw Reefer Man announce the other day that he has some huge haze project that he's doing with Neville's Genetics, and that put a smile. I saw you like that as well. That put a smile on my face as well. So I'm a haze guy. My firstborn son's middle name is Hayes. I remember my wife suggesting it and saying, you know, why don't you call him Hayes? And I was just like, really? She's like, yeah, I've never seen you. Like, every time I think of the haze, I picture you going, it's the haze. You know, so I love what's going on, and I think there's a lot that we haven't even scratched the surface on, and that potential is really available to us right in this now.
100%. And we've only got an hour here, so I want to dive to the point. I want to deliver value to you guys. So we've got Kevin Jodrey and we've got Welbourne up here, and I guess the question that I want to ask is, where's this going, and how can micro cultivators and non-large multi-state operators or publicly traded companies, you know, what directions should they be looking? Where should they be working lines, and what should they be focusing on to position themselves properly to protect themselves going forward? Kev, you want to take this one?
For the smaller cultivator, you have to really define your lane. And what that means is that you can't compete with the larger operation in genetic selection. So whatever varieties that you see that are being produced by these companies, you need to stay as far from them as possible. But what you can do is you can understand that they're using these things because they're copying data. And so you don't even have to buy data. You can look at the other company's data to see what they're choosing and using, and it lets you know what the data is telling them. And so what you know is these habits and these patterns, and it lets you see their target, which is this broad swath. And you need to understand that your canopy is not big enough to provide to that broad swath. Your canopy is far more refined. And so you're able to look at think about the customers like an array of colors, like a ribbon of colors, and there's 1,000 colors, and we only need to service 3 colors. And so as a micro operator, we're really trying to target who's the customer that I want to serve that is not being served. Because what we have is a completely underserved market. So if we can understand what our infrastructure, skill set, and ability to be flexible will do, that will allow you to position yourself in one of those lanes of color that allow you to have success. But the rest of that rainbow is covered by the larger operators.
Yeah, no, I think like